operating the OSD. Once the OSD is wired to record incoming analog TV signals, store the resulting digitized results, and display on an adjacent TV, it's controlled for routine operation through an infrared remote control that has the same general look and feel that you'd expect to find on a typical VHS recorder or DVD recorder. With a pair of good quality AAA batteries like these, it'll last for about a year before you need to replace the batteries. IR transmission range has never been a problem for me. I routinely use mine at distances between, say, 3 feet and about 25 feet. I don't know how far I could easily go, but I have noticed that I have to carefully aim the infrared emitter at the infrared sensor on the OSD. I have to aim it carefully, and even then, the response to infrared commands is somewhat slow. I found it best to develop a careful, deliberate approach to these commands, lingering on each button a little longer than intuition would demand. Most OSD management activities consist of navigating among simple English language menu prompts displayed on the connected TV screen. Navigation is done through these up, down, left, and right buttons, and there's an enter button in the middle that's used to activate the selected menu option. There's a separate red button to turn on the recording logic to start recording. Other controls I use a lot are the home button, which resets the menus to a convenient starting point, and the backup button, which closes the current menu option and displays the previous one. And when watching movies, I just use the obvious and intuitive stop, play, rewind, and fast forward buttons, exactly like I would use with my old VHS player. Altogether, these buttons make it simple and obvious and intuitive to take full advantage of the menu options. However, those menus are sophisticated. They're loaded with options that will make good sense to technologists, but that may be challenging for beginners. Be patient. Pay particular attention to the setup options, where you can modify the behavior of most other operations and where you can tune the behavior of your OSD for best performance with your particular TV and storage media options and video source devices. Now, if I were to pick one OSD shortcoming, it would be video resolution. Nowadays, we all like to see better video quality than the old standard analog connections can deliver. The OSD fully exploits these old standards. I have no complaints there. But those standards will never be able to support HD video. The highest resolution that this guy can capture is 640 pixels wide by 480 pixels high. And that's a bit less than DVD resolution, and there's just no way to compensate for that using these old technologies. Now, depending on your attitude about old technologies, you may be asking yourself, well, just how bad does it look, or just how good does it look? This will always be a matter of personal taste. I've developed my own standard of good enough, and you will need to do the same. And if you just can't tolerate anything less than today's modern emerging HD standards, then the Neuros OSD is not going to make you happy. However, you may be surprised to find that when I convert my old VHS tapes or DVD discs, I don't even use the maximum available resolution that the OSD can deliver. With the benefit of 2 years of extensive experience, I've settled on a compromise. Now, my compromise, 1, looks good enough to me, like good quality VHS tapes looked back in their days. 2, it consumes a reasonable amount of hard disk space, about 1 gigabyte of disk space for a full-length movie. And 3, plays on all my hardware, including my 3 OSDs, all my Windows and Linux-based PCs, my iPods, my Nokia cell phones, etc. I use a resolution of 320 pixels horizontally by 240 pixels vertically, with a video bandwidth of 720 kbps. To me, it looks pretty much like the best broadcast TV that I watched while I was growing up, or like a typical new commercial VHS tape looked back when they were new. When I want better than that, I make a rare trip upstairs to break out the original DVD disc. A few movies, the great ones, are worth that effort. Most, especially old ones, are just not worth it. By maxing out the available OSD resolutions, I could go up to 640 pixels wide by 480 pixels tall, with a video bandwidth of 2.5 megabits per second. And if I did that, video appearance would look measurably better. I can see the difference. Really, I can. but it's not a big or compelling difference. It's like the difference between a good VHS tape and a DVD. It's detectable, it's enjoyable, but it's not worth throwing away all those old VHS tapes. I find that once I get involved in a program's storyline, I really cease to notice the difference. On a small screen, I can't even see any difference. Furthermore, my experience has shown that files recorded at these higher resolutions and bandwidths require 3 or 4 times as much disk space, adding considerably to the cost of storing thousands of movie files. To make matters worse, those high resolution, high bandwidth files don't play well on low power devices like cell phones. Overall, we're pretty happy with our 320 by 240, 720K BPS compromise. Our first experiences with the OSD were frustrating. The promotional literature in the box described a great many features. I suspect that all of those features could be made to work in appropriate circumstances, but the main features that I've discussed are the only ones we use. Once we've stopped struggling with the bizarre ones and made peace with the functions I've just talked about, we really learned to love this little computer that could. For us, it's the little computer that does. Thanks.
Please join us at AskMisterWizard.com. Our home theater section includes downloadable samples showing what movies really look like when they are recorded by the Neuros at the various quality settings.